This morning we also have apologies from Councillor Allison, and was expecting Councillor Nelson. I'll do a roll call in a second. Councillor Patterson, and expecting Andy Steele, and George Hickley. Is there any other apologies? No, thank you. Can I just, for the sake of the minute, do a roll call, please, on the for those who are on Richard? Richard Nelson. And just confirm you're in attendance.
Sorry, Chair, I think you may be speaking to me, but the sound is not great. I don't know if it's just me, but it's very muffled. I can hardly hear you at all.
I agree.
I'm the same.
Can everyone hear me okay now?
No, you can hear something, but it's not great. The sound is very, very poor.
Okay, we'll endeavour to carry on, and in the meantime, I'll ask somebody to turn the air conditioning system off. That may help. Okay, thank you very much. Andrew Kennedy, are you in attendance?
Excuse me.
Yep.
There are a number of people online that have their microphones on and not muted. And that's, I think, causing an awful lot of the crosstalk that we're getting. I think if everybody that's online mutes their microphone until they actually need to speak, we would cut a lot of that background noise down.
Thank you. Could all members please mute themselves? Thank you. I call out names, please turn your mic on, but if you keep them off so we can maximise the hearing audio at your at home. Thank you. Councillor Steele, are you in attendance?
I am.
Thank you. Andrew Walters?
Good morning, hi.
Adam Smith?
Morning.
Thank you. Donald Reid?
In attendance.
Tina Dixon?
Yes, morning.
William Lennox?
Good morning, yeah.
Councillor Neil?
I am here, although the sound quality is very, very poor at your end, not at our end.
Kirsty Orr?
Good morning.
Duncan Townsend?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
Good. Okay, I think we have everything that we're expecting.
Okay, agenda item 2. Declaration of interest. Any declaration of interest?
Any declaration of interest from members virtually? Jenna?
Thanks, Valerie. Good morning. I am an employee of Scottish Rail Holdings, the owning group of ScotRail trains.
Thank you. Alan?
Thanks, Chair. Just the usual member of ASLIF and employee of Scotland.
Thank you.
Okay, agenda item 3.
Okay, thank you. Moving on. Oh, sorry, Ken Andrews, you have your hand up.
Valerie, sorry to be a boring techie guy, but obviously you need to see the hands up and whatever. So you've got your laptop open and your mic open on your laptop. I think if you close your mic off on your laptop and we just pick you up on the microphones in the room, I think that might cure the problem we've got with the sound. You can tell I was a roadie in my ill-gotten youth.
I actually don't have, I'm actually operating it from my phone, but if all members in the room who have laptops open, would you please close the mics on, please? Thank you. Okay, the minute of the meeting of the 16th of December, can we take it as an accurate record in the first instance? In the room, are we happy it's an accurate record? Thank you. Virtually, are we happy it's an accurate record? Thank you. And we can take it page by page, the matters arising. Big page 2. big page 3, big page 4, and big page 5. No matters arising. Thank you.
Okay. Agenda 4, commitments.
Moving on, the committee minutes of the last cycle for agreement to the minute of operations committee.
Yep.
Thank you. Happy to agree, David?
Agree.
Thank you. Minute of strategy and programmes, noting there are some key paragraphs which are partnership approval. Two of those papers, the capital budget and the revenue budget, are also in the packet papers. Are we happy to agree the minute?
Agree.
Thank you. Minute of audit and standards. Donald, are we happy to agree the minute?
Yep, happy to do the minute.
Thank you.
Okay. Agenda item 5.
Thanks very much, Chair. Agenda item 5 is to remind members that at the December meeting, which we just put the minute, we had a paper which was adjourned for one cycle in compliance with the standing orders, and that was an amendment to the standing orders to include gender as a consideration when appointing office bearers to SPT. All the questions that we've received since that time have been answered and explained. And the report recommends the approval of that now going forward. Are we happy to agree that?
Agree. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Rand.
Councillor Mills.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just ask that we keep it under review, although we should agree it is improvement, and if there are any further opportunities to improve that again, should we keep that as a matter for consideration?
Standing orders are reviewed at the 10-year cycle, administrative cycle, that happens to keep under review. Thank you very much.
President. Agenda item 6.
Neil?
Thanks, Chair. Can I just check for members online? Can you hear me? Yeah. Very good, thank you. So this is the revenue budget and long-term financial strategy, revenue budget for 23-24. It was presented to Strategy and Programmes Committee for scrutiny, and Strategy and Programmes Committee recommended these papers, this budget, long-term financial strategy, to the partnership for approval. There are no changes unusual since then, no changes at all. So at a high level, I'll just go through the key issues. So they are affecting all organisations, the ongoing inflationary pressures. Those are partially offset by the current base rate position, which is generating more bank interest for us. It's all underpinned by the very strong patronage recovery and growth funds, so we're reflecting strong income growth as well. Over and above that, the requisition with the local authority partners has been agreed at an increase of 1.95%, and that's in line with the ongoing agreement to have the average settlement across the local authority partners. And over and above that, it ties into the next paper on the capital programme. The budget does include a proposal for a resumption of contributions to general capital and also subway modernisation, reflecting the funding position in both of those. So the budget also includes a small increase in subway fares and bus station departures, over 3%. Those are necessary to achieve a balanced budget, but we are conscious, and that's why they're at 3%, we are conscious that we've also got an objective to continue our recovery and continue our growth, and that's why they're at 3%. They're an important part in balancing the budget. So those are the key elements in producing the balanced budget, which is at appendix 1 for approval. If I move on then to the long-term financial strategy and reserves, the long-term financial strategy has been fresh for the first time since COVID. We agreed with our then auditors that it didn't make any sense to do it during the COVID period because we were building a ship in sands. There are no major changes to approach in the long-term financial strategy is effectively updated. For reserves, there is a significant proposed change in there with the creation of a future transport investment fund, and that's to support measures directly comes from the Transport Act 2019 and also from SPT Partnership. So in conclusion, the budget itself is drafted to take nice sort of challenge.
Yeah, we've lost the room. We can't hear you anymore.
Valerie, sorry, I think the mute button's been hit. If someone can unmute it, please.
Okay, you got me again?
Yes, thanks.
How far back did you lose me? Please don't say it start.
Yeah, you have to go all the way back.
Just a few seconds.
Okay, thank you. So, as the advanced summary, and the budget has been to strategy and programmes committee. The strategy and programmes committee did recommend approval to the partnership. So, Chair, if I can ask the members to approve the actions as noted in section 7, and happy to take any questions at the detail.
Okay, are there any questions to the report? Gentlemen.
Thanks, Chair, and maybe it's not an unfair question, but I'll ask it anyway. And it's obviously in relation to the budget that was obviously announced a couple of days ago, so the print will be still very wet on paper, insofar as there was significant amounts of money indicated to public transport, bus transport in relation to England and Wales. I guess the question for me is, do you know what we're getting, which the answer is no, not yet. But what I would say to the Chair is that I think, I know we've been engaged with the Transport Scotland and Scottish Minister and so many things in terms of community fund, bus funds and all the rest of it, as far as getting that funding passed down at the appropriate level, which in our cases SPT can try and respond to the pressures that are there. I guess the point I'm trying to get from the question or comment is that they make representation that the money is whether the consequences in terms of the violent consequences that have been identified for transport, that is entirely passed down proportionally in relation to the RTP, so that we're able to do the necessary work. I mean, I'm sure we'll come on to it later on in the agenda, the specifics in terms of different pressures. But quite frankly, if there's money coming from the UK, Parliament on that, there will be violent consequences, and we need to make sure that money isn't sitting some account in Transport Scotland, but in relation to passed on to the RTP so that we can get on with the work, which is going to be very much needed over the next week. Thank you.
No, I agree.
Absolutely.
That's absolutely
100.
I think everybody around the table and online want to give their comments.
And I think we need to make sure we keep making that point. We don't give up until we're satisfied that the money is coming, the consequences are.
Certainly. Ask that question. Are there any further questions? Okay, thank you. Next agenda item.
Okay, thanks, Chair. Back to myself again. So the proposed capital plan for 2024 and 25-26, including the capital budget for 23-24. So once again, exactly the same scenario. This paper has been to strategy and programmes already for scrutiny, and again was recommended for approval of the partnership. And again, there are very unusual changes at all in detail since then. Key points for this one: capital funding, general capital funding remains at 50.327 million. That presents a challenge given the inflation position. I mentioned in the previous paper, that was construction, etc. So that feeds into the funding position again from the previous paper. The profile of public modernisation funding has changed, but it does remain within the overall capital of 246 million. As a result of those two changes, that's why we've made the proposal just agreed on the revenue side to resume revenue funding support to supplement both those areas, the general capital and the public modernisation. So the programme, as you would expect, has been assessed against RTS objectives, and that's resulted in a total programme of 52.128 million. There are over 70 projects in the programme for 2024. I can just point out, actually, I say there's no changes at all, and there are no changes. The appendix is correct, it's the same appendix with the strategy programmes. Unfortunately, there is an error, and I apologise for this in both tables 1 and table 2. The total capital programme should be 52.128 million, and not as shown there, the 51,978. Apologies for that, it's a unchanged, though if I just repeat that from the strategy programmes committee. So it results in a balanced programme funded for modernisation. You can see in table 1 there on page 79, an overcommitment of 4.32 million or 19% for general, which is in line with our normal practice to ensure that we accommodate slippage which will happen within the following year. So again, Chair, that's the summary of the position. Just repeat again, it's been for scrutiny and recommended partial approval. I can ask members to approve the actions in section 7 and happy to take any questions.
Okay, are there any questions to the report? Okay, thank you. Happy to approve.
Agree.
Thank you. Next agenda item, please.
Thanks, Chair. The title itself is a mouthful, so we've got the Treasury Management Strategy Statement, Annual Investment Strategy and Capital Strategy for 2024. Thank you, Chair. As you'll see, it's a detailed report and it's covering the important areas that all these are in terms of Treasury Management, Investment and Capital Strategy. Section 2 actually covers a lot of what this report's about, and it's based on accounting codes which drives best practice, and that best practice is very important across these areas. There are three main elements which influence the report all the way through. I'm not going to go through all the detail in there because they all have off these three elements, and those are the best practice that I've mentioned. The capital programme itself, which has just been approved, and also our investment position, they influence the whole report. So the numbers that are in there are based on both of those things, the capital programme and investment position, and all the detail is based on best practice. There are no changes in approach in any of these strategies from 23-24, and there are no proposed changes to any of the limits that are in here in terms of our treasury management position. So again, that's a high-level summary. It's a very detailed report, but I've given what the key themes are driving the elements there, and those are the best practice, the capital programme, and the investment position. So again, I've asked members to approve the actions in section 6, and happy to take any questions in the future.
Okay, are there any questions to the report? Okay, happy to approve. Agree. Thank you. Next agenda item.
Thanks, Chair. This is to seek approval of the final draft regional transport strategy appendix 1. The long report today, it also includes a appendix to a report in the public consultation which we did, and also in appendix 3 and covered in sections 3.2, 3.3, 3.4 of the report is a table which shows how we've taken account of the consultation responses and further work that we've done in amending the RTS policies. So the important thing is, final draft RTS, if approved today, it goes to Scottish Ministers. Scottish Ministers approve it, becomes a statutory document. Once that happens, it will be used by councils, developers and others to get their own transport strategies, land use strategies, plans and projects, and importantly, it'll act as a tool for getting more investment in the west of Scotland. It will help make the case when you're trying to bid for more money from Transport Scotland and others. From our perspective, we've continued to deliver the RTS work streams, including the strategic regional bus strategy, regional landfill travel strategy, and things like Clyde Metro, and we'll also be preparing on the back of this the RTS delivery plan. We'll also, as Neil said, we use the RTS to guide our own investment, and we'll be building the new RTS once approved into our own business planning processes. So conscious it's a long report, if you're happy to take any questions, I would emphasise right throughout this process the support of the elected members, the appointed members of the partnership has been absolutely essential in getting the RTS to the stage it is today. SPT staff, our consultants, Stantec have been hugely important too. The really important one to emphasise to you is the engagement we've had throughout this process of developing the RTS. Members of the public, communities, our councils, our stakeholders, activist groups have all been involved in this right the way through, and we feel that it's stronger because of that. So we've got a bold, ambitious strategy for you today. We feel the right resources put into it will be deliverable. So we commend it to you, Chair, and seeking your approval of final draft RTS. I say happy to take any questions.
Okay, are there any questions to the report?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Chris. It is really quite a detailed document, I have to say, and going with the normal kind of history of stuff going through to Edinburgh, have you got, what's the expected timeline for this to be approved, taking on board the fact that there possibly be a new transport minister? If you just give us some kind of indication, thanks.
Sure, as far as I'm aware, the previous experience of other RTPs have put their draft RTSs into Transport Scotland, Scottish Ministers for approval, can be between 3 and 9 months. I would hope, given the scale of SPT, the engagement we've got with Transport Scotland, and also the fact that Transport Scotland officers have been involved in the RTS board and various other parts of the development process, we've ensured that we've kept them up to date. So I wouldn't go as far to say hope it's a formality, but we will obviously pressure them to ensure that we get a quick response. So that's the basis of it. Once we hear, we do submit it, we will ask for a timeline, we'll report that back to the partnership.
That's fine.
Thanks for that question, Councillor. Further questions?
Yeah.
Councillor Sinclair?
I think it's page 174, and it is to do with ferry integration. Ensure the ferry network is integrated with the wider public transport system, including island transport services, to reduce adverse impacts. I have to use ferries, we're a peninsula economy in Cowell and Dunoon, and it's just not working for us, and there is no point in me being here unless, if this is correct, it has to actually work, and it's just not working because we have cancellations after cancellations, and even today, on board the train, I could hear somebody in the background, literally, giving somebody laldy about, the cancellations, the integration as we're talking here. So, we're now getting to the stage where, some ferries are coming in, you've got to wait half an hour to get a train link into Glasgow Central. Why should Cowell, Dunoon, and our peninsula, why should we have to suffer? And even this morning, I have to get an earlier ferry just so as it works to get in. And, I don't know, I'm sorry if this is a whinge, but this is massively important for us. And that's like a utopia there, and it's just not happening. So, over to you guys.
Thanks,
Chair, thanks for the question. That's why we put it in the strategy, because it is so important. One thing really to emphasise to everyone is this is a strategy for all. The easy thing for us to do is to concentrate in big urban areas and things like that, but we know, as you guys do, rural transport, island transport is a huge challenge, particularly now post-COVID. But the point that you're making about services linking up, some of us in the room have been doing this for a long time, and it's an ongoing challenge. One thing that we'll be doing through the delivery plan is taking forward some actions to do with that, speaking primarily to the Scottish Government and Scotland around this. It is entirely unacceptable, the delays or the gaps between services hooking up, and that's something that we will very much focus on. I know, for example, North Ayrshire Council have got the Islands Connectivity Plan, which is looking at exactly this type of thing and saying how can we improve this, what can we do. So very happy to speak to colleagues in Inverclyde, North Ayrshire and Argyll View to see if there's more that we can do as we try and take this strategy forward to delivery.
Sure, perhaps if I could comment at that point. The point that Councillor Sinclair was making is well made, and we'll again be arguing that. I think the role that SPT plays is championing the cause for getting stakeholders together to make that difference. And I think the strategy gives us that authority and reasoning to go and be vocal about that, and that is what the strategy will do. So SPT will champion that cause and get stakeholders together. We've recently corresponded with Transport Scotland on a similar issue to say you need to do something about this. So we will continue to champion that cause.
Sorry, can I just come back on costings as well? For two people to travel from Dunoon to Glasgow Central, £44.20. £44.20. Now we talk about removing car journeys, Now I've worked it out that it's so much cheaper. And if you take 4 people travelling to Glasgow Sorry, that is, I think it was, what was it, 88 pounds 40 for 4 people travelling from Dunoon to Glasgow Central. Okay, I worked out if you use the ferries and a car, £41.99. It's just, you know, public transport. I love public transport. I'm a supporter of transport, but you know, I'm just getting really exasperated with prices and everything like that, and it's just not working for us. So, again, over to you guys.
Thanks. Any frustration?
No, absolutely. And the issue of affordability of public transport is huge, as we know, whether it's bus services, ferry services, others. And it's a matter of equitability. It really is, in terms of the access to life opportunities that people are missing out on, perhaps due to the cost of travelling by public transport. And if we are serious about getting people out of their cars and onto public transport, we need to balance that up. We need to make sure that public transport is at least as attractive an offer as travelling by car, otherwise things won't change. So again, very much a matter in terms of the fares for Transport Scotland, the Scottish Government, the ferry companies, ScotRail, and as Valerie, myself and others have regular engagements with them about those kind of things. And we will do our utmost through delivery of this strategy to try and help address them. Huge challenges. We won't be shy away from that.
So maybe just, it doesn't solve your frustration today, and I fully accept that, but just to make all members absolutely aware that SPT has prepared a statement on the back of the articles, which basically states, and it's a public statement, that the only way we will deliver this is with adequate powers and regulations, with proper funding, and with support and joined up with all the stakeholders. That is the only way this can be delivered, and that's a public statement that's been made through Expo. So all members' support to that is welcome, but we recognise your frustrations, but we cannot solve that frustration with £36 million a year.
No.
So, and that's the reality of that. So more powers, better regulation, better joint governance, and additional and adequate funding to the RTP to deliver and make that change.
Just one final winch, because I don't want to take up any more people's time. I mean, you know, this is a book of CalMac tickets, okay? And, you know, a lot of people buy them on our site because it's just using it. They've now gone from a year to use your 10 tickets. They went to 3 months, and now 1 month to use your 10 tickets, even though all the cancellations and weather related. So I'm sorry, but I am having a big, huge whinge. That needs to stop. You know, that needs to go to CalMac board, and they need to stop that.
Here. Just, you made the point earlier this morning about himself about Western service.
Yeah.
The Facebook stuff, you attend your ticket, and you can still go on because you've paid it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how long, how old your ticket is, it's valid. That's disgraceful.
It's something you seriously need to take up, because the public have been robbed.
Okay.
Sorry, I have Donald Reid, who has had his hand up for some time.
Okay. Donald?
Thanks. Yeah, I think we're getting into ward issues. I can certainly tell you that North Ayrshire has got lots of problems with the ferries, but I don't bring them to SPT, I bring them to CalMac and Transport Scotland. But I think it's unfair to criticise the cost of bringing a car because it's been subsidised by the road equivalent tariff. So if there's a complaint about cars against that, then that has to go to Transport Scotland, because they're the ones funding the cars to subsidise them to bring them across in the ferries. So folk have to remember where the subsidies are sitting as well, just in the bigger picture. If we were, because RET has brought lots of problems to the ferry industry. It's just an observation.
Okay. Sorry. Councillor Moyer. Okay. Councillor Burns.
Thanks, Chair, and I think you know the points that Councillor Sinclair makes in terms of the aspect of the ferries is really important. I think it's something that we should pick up in terms of making representations in behalf of, and that's our role, that's our job, and I think we should be making representations extremely important. What I would say, Chair, is I appreciate and thank the officers and all those who participated in this report in terms of the strategy being evolved to the stage that it is. The contributions have been extremely interesting and in many ways very supportive in terms of the road and in terms of direction that the SPT is going. One of the things that's quite clear, and it's kind of, if you like, came to a head, is that we definitely need a solution, a Strathclyde solution for the Strathclyde problem that is unique to the rest of Scotland. Many people make reference to what's taking place in other areas and RTPs in terms of how things are operated. I understand, we all understand that this RTS and this SPT, in terms of its role, covers so many things: planning, subway, active travel, and so many other aspects in terms of the transport agenda. We cover so far more, and obviously, you standing for yourself, the chairs of the other RTPs, it was quite clear that where SPT is very well in advance in terms of its role and also in terms of its guidance. But I guess I would like to kind of vent, just like Councillor Gellin, I think you said frustration. That anybody who knows me offline, I would choose other type of words insofar as frustration. I think it is really a crossroads just now. We have a situation where we're still waiting in relation to guidance and regulations in relation to the bus industry. And, unfortunately, the RTS, I fear, will be basically marked up, if you like, in terms of where do we go in relation to the bus industry in Strathclyde. It is the issue that is confronting us right now. It's been confronted us slowly over a long period of time, and it's, dare I say, it's came ahead. I know the interest where we've got the commercial operators. Sometimes the spokesperson, sometimes they're acting on behalf of the organisation, CPT, sometimes they're acting on behalf of the operators. But it is really disappointing that even some of them don't even get and understand the role, the powers and responsibilities of SPT and complain, that obviously there's issues in terms of subsidy coming to an end at the end of the end of this month or end of next month. But at the same time, still having means to purchase to other bus companies in Dundee and Aberdeen. So I hear what's taking place with some of the operators insofar as one operator saying about the big problem we've got in relation to the 20% opinions in terms of the how unattractive bus travel is. I also hear what's the issue, and I've got big sympathy in terms of the issue in relation to the staffing problems that the bus industry seems to have. But what is clear is that the issue that we have is that we are at a real cusp of the bus industry in the west of Scotland, which I think is pretty unique in other areas. I made the point earlier on about the issue of the UK budget, and every pound is a prisoner, and if there's money made available for transport and it's available for Scotland, then we need to make sure that money is passed on. Colleague Councillor Greville made the point in relation to this being approved by the Scottish Minister. I hope it is no more than 3 months before this is approved, and not like the same situation that we find ourselves in terms of seeking guidance and regulations, so that we as an organisation can take forward aspects of the 2019 Act. So I look forward to seeing that coming forward. The budget we just spoke about earlier on, we know that the budget in the main is basically soaked up in subsidising between 10 and 20% of public bus services across the west of Scotland. But we're increasingly seeing a massive hike in prices across the bus industry. refer to the previous situation where we had an operation meeting where we discussed, I think, circa 8 contracts based on 200, and the bill went up by 142%. Quite frankly, if that is to continue and continues when we go involved in relation to the new school contracts when we go forward, that is going to be entirely unsustainable unless there is a significant recognition that we need additional powers in terms of governance, intervention and finance if we have to try and make sure that we don't see the bus industry fall off a cliff. And what I would say, Chair, obviously there's been a number of discussions with the Transport Minister, and we'll see what happens after possible changes in that front. But quite frankly, we really need to see a significant step change in relation to the bus industry in the west of Scotland. As I said, I think we need a staff-led solution for a staff-led problem. And in relation to, we've outlined it, Chair, in page 136, where it's a 7th bullet point, where we make quite clear, and about making ones about it in relation to colleagues here, we've kind of trailed it with the transport for staff played in previous cycle. But quite clearly there has to be a significant change, and quite frankly the issue of franchising and municipal bus companies has to be a game changer for staff played, not just for SPT, more importantly for the punters, the passengers who are isolated. We've got a number of great initiatives in the west of Scotland under 22s, over 60s, great concessionary fares, but quite frankly these are not worth the paper they're written on if you cannot get a bus. And that's where we're facing ourselves. It is, as I said, unfortunate in many ways. I think, Chair, that this great piece of work will be, if you like, mapped based on how we develop the case in terms of transport. And I think what the Chief Executive said earlier on in terms of the statement made is, I think we need to emphasise this loud and clear, that it is the clear direction of this RTP, that we're looking for adequate powers to evolve from the Scottish Government to enable and empower SPT, adequate funding, and also a clear direction in terms of timescales from the Scottish Government, because quite frankly the status quo in relation to the bus network and the delivery of bus services right across Staff Clyde, rural, urban, is not sustainable. And I think it's time, quite frankly, to turn the volume up loud and clear. That's the course of direction that we're taking place, and I'm pleased with the press release that's been issued. I think it would be yourself, Chair, that we are making these calls, no holding back. Quite frankly, the status quo is not sustainable. We need a solution for Staff Clyde, and we really need a solution as quick as possible. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. There was a question.
Where's it happening?
Thank you, and thank you, Bruce and officers, for the work that's gone in and for the positive changes that have been made. I just wanted to raise a few points, if that's okay, about some of the conciseness, I suppose, of some of the messaging, particularly in light of the RTS feedback initial summary report, which was presented on the 16th of December, which talked of the need for simpler communication and focus. For example, if we look at the Appendix 3, page 278, affordable transport, the first sentence is deliver affordable public transport for all, particularly for people living in poverty, social disadvantaged communities and in rural and remote areas. I do feel that there should be a full stop after deliver affordable public transport for all. As many respondents did comment on the need in the RTS for clear focus, conciseness, and a clear emphasis on providing affordable transport for everybody, regardless of any specific situation experienced by any specific group. I think transport should be affordable for those on the lowest incomes, of course. That is a principle that we would all agree with, but it should also equally be affordable to those who are not in the lowest income bands, if we are to achieve modal shift in the volume that is required to address the climate crisis and lower car kilometres. Therefore, I believe that fares should be set at the lowest possible level for all, like in most other cities that we would respect public transport in. which have simple and convenient and affordable fares. For example, they don't have a means tested system. They don't have some fares at a level for some people and some fares at a level for others. And that is presumably what we are suggesting if we bring out and pull out specific groups here. So I think for the sake of clarity and for the sake of making the ambition as strong as possible, the emphasis should be on all, and there should be no reference or mention of specific subgroups within that. I have another similar type of thing, and I think, and just also as well, I think that does tally quite well with the frustrations which Councillor Sinclair has expressed, and also many other members have expressed at this board, that we want to make fares affordable, and if we want more people to shift onto public transport, those fares need to be simple and need to be at an affordable level for everybody, regardless. I think the other similar issue for me is about the same section actually, but it does talk about ensure public transport passengers find it easy to choose and access the best value ticket for their journey. And I really feel that the emphasis should be on us, or should be on the region, to try and figure out what that affordable system should look like, and not the responsibility of the passenger to choose and to look for the ticket which might be the best for them. They shouldn't be the one responsible for choosing it in a complex system. It should be the default position from the outset that we are providing and we are enabling affordable ticketing for everybody. And I think that it gives more of an emphasis on the need for simple fares and integrated ticketing, and not the status quo which we have now, which we are, I feel, trying to find a way around addressing rather than directly addressing. So I do think that maybe should be slightly changed as well, particularly in light of the RTS initial summary findings, which did talk for the need of conciseness and for focus. There was another few things. Is it possible to have a response and then to come back and do other things?
Sorry?
Thank you.
Sorry, Chair, I'm just going to, in terms of the members' hands up, so we have Anne, and then we have Kirsty Metz, and then we'll go on. Kirsty Orr.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Mills. Just on the first point, I think we've, as you can see, what we had previously, just on page 278 in the columns here now, we have put in public transport, deliver affordable public transport for all, with that emphasis on those groups who need it most. So for me, that covers the need to ensure that it is affordable for everyone, to make sure that that behaviour change that we need to deliver, to get people out of their cars onto public transport, using walking and cycling more. I think that is that very much covers it, and it's a theme throughout the strategy. You'll see right from the vision, right through to the policies and elsewhere, it is about for all, and that's a really important point for us in the west of Scotland, because we are an area of contrast. You did say that before. We've got the deep urban areas, we've got those rural areas and islands that the councillor mentioned earlier on. That's why it's important to emphasise for all, and just to absolutely reassure the partnership, when we are looking at affordability, it is for all. Where we can do things for those who are the most vulnerable in society, we'll do more. Make no apologies for that. We will fight for those who are struggling the most, but we will have an overall emphasis on ensuring affordability for all. And the second point, just on the responsibility should be in the passenger to find the cheapest ticket. Absolutely, couldn't agree more. I think that the challenge there is, as we all know, we live in a world in the west of Scotland where we have 50 operators, where we have a multitude of tickets, even if it's just for rail, on different bus companies. We've got our zone card there, which is trying to do something about that. We will continue to try and work with the operators to make sure that those systems make it easy for passengers to find the right ticket. It shouldn't be that passengers are looking around struggling to find out where they can get the most affordable option. But our emphasis and the emphasis in the strategy there is, it's not on the passenger to find it, it's ensuring public transport passengers find it easy to choose and access the best value ticket for their journey. That will be through us working with the operators, through our integrated ticketing team, smart card systems that we've got. In fact, as you're aware, we're moving to a smart zone card, looking at one-day zone card and various flexi-pass options there to try and make that as simple as possible for people. So the emphasis in the strategy is to make life easy for the passenger, so that they've got the easiest option to make their journey. It's attractive, it's simple, it gets them where they need to go at an affordable price. So the strength of the strategy is in the lines that Councillor Nelson is bringing out, the detail that's in there, but just the issue of the partnership that we believe, based on what we've put in the strategy, that's the best way of achieving it. When we move towards the delivery plan and some of the other things we're doing, whether it's the regional bus strategy or others, that will be the emphasis that we'll take. Passenger first, affordability for all, those are the principles that we take through the strategy. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we bring you back in, Councillor, I'm actually going to go round and come back to you again, because there's a lot of people who come in. Nancy, you've been doing quite well. So,
Mine's quite a brief point. I mean, I fully accept everything you say, and it's our job, and it's the job of the RTS to do what it's doing and shout. However, I think we have to be realistic. In the current economic climate, I cannot see us getting the sort of money we need to deliver what we want to deliver. It's just not going to happen, without any sound overly pessimistic. So I think it's just what I want to say is it really is incumbent on us to make sure we do get the best value for the money that we have got, and also focus on things such as, it's a nonsense if you say you're coming on a ferry and you have to wait half an hour for a train. Obviously, I realise that the trains have to time all the space that they can get at the main stations when they arrive at the stations and that, but instinctively we feel there shouldn't be a huge cost involved in making sure that certain types of transport like that at least all tie up together. And maybe there has to be a lot of focus on that sort of thing, things that can be addressed and something can be done about, I would hope, at relatively low cost. I just do think we have to be realistic in the current climate.
Okay, thank you. Assistant 4. Will you come in online?
Yeah, thank you. As a newly elected member, the strategy is really helpful.
We've lost you, Kirsty. You're frozen. We'll come back to you.
Okay. Rosa? No, Rosa.
Thanks. I won't say a lot, but two things. I want to say I really enjoyed our sessions. First, so thank you so much for those opportunities for us to contribute, and also I had that discussion that was really helpful. There's a few things in page 186. I don't want to speak a lot of things about my work, but in relation to Gated Polo, where I represent, there's a lot of transport issues, and I really welcome Glasgow connecting to Newton Mearns and Barhead on the strategy plans, and I just wanted to say that. And in relation to zone cards, in Glasgow, it's not affordable. And I think we've all came to a conclusion saying that we need affordable transport system and connection to buses, fares, subway, trains. And I think that's clear from all members across the board. And I think we need to work harder. And when I speak to residents or I speak to young people, when they, age of 24, 25, they want to use public transport, but it's just not affordable. Even the zone cards, it's just not affordable. And we really need to tackle that. And I appreciate this, Bruce, SPT Partnership, to having this bold strategy or ambition to do more. And that's all I'll say. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are we okay to go back online? You've unfrozen. Okay, Kirsty.
Yeah, hopefully it works now. It's the NHS Wi-Fi. As a newly elected member, I think the strategy clearly sets out the challenges and actions needed to respond to these challenges. It also does describe a wee bit around the monitoring of the delivery of the strategy, recognising the challenges that other members have highlighted. But actually, I was quite interested in understanding what the plans were for the evaluation of the impact, and what thought had been made around that evaluation of impact in terms of inequalities, behaviour change around the responses outlined. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks, Kirsty, for your comments. As you see in the RTS, page 191, we've got the section in monitoring the RTS. And interestingly, it was something that came back through the consultation and the dialogue that we had with our stakeholders. We have got some fairly strong targets in there. They are time-bound in terms of 2030, which is all we say from a transport perspective is tomorrow. And trying to achieve some of that change. It is a complex area, and we are, one of the actions that we're taking from getting the RTS approved is to make sure that that monitoring and evaluation framework is as robust as possible. And we'll be bringing something back to the partnership as soon as we can to explain that. So just to reassure you, Kirsty, absolutely, we want to make sure that we are focusing the strategy where it can make the most difference. But also just ensuring that if we are not on track for achieving these targets, we change what we're doing, we encourage others to change and we refocus in that area. So really important part of it as we move on. Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Mitchell and then back to Councillor.
So we have Councillor O'Donnell first.
All right, okay, so Councillor O'Donnell.
Thanks very much, Chair. A number of points if you can indulge me. Page 166 on targets, and you talked there was about 2030. I think it would be very helpful to have a baseline in terms of where we're coming from, to understand better how far we have to go and how big the challenge is. Actually, even before that, I would like to commend officers on this report, together with the consultation document. I think the consultation document in itself was very, very insightful. There was a lot of themes coming through from that, which feels is not fully reflected in terms of the tone of some of the words within the strategy. Alan talked earlier about re-regulation of buses, really. To me, that felt like the elephant in the room in this strategy. If we're serious about modal shifts, if we're serious about it, then buses, in my opinion, would have the biggest single impact, way above active travel, way above active travel. And we're putting significant amount of money into active travel. If even half of that was going back into buses, I think we'd see a significant impact on using buses again. So it feels as if it's a little bit, being driven by Scottish initiatives, which is fine, but not actually thinking about what's the best way to actually deliver on these outcomes. Bruce also mentioned focus on the biggest impact. And to me, again, that is buses and bus re-regulation. So that felt underplayed in this whole argument. If it's within the press release, that's great. For the next 15 years, and this is a 15-year strategy, then we're kidding ourselves on, frankly. So I think how we emphasise that diplomatically as well as we can, but it's important that I think that message is absolutely clear in all of our communications, not just to government and to ourselves, but also to the wider public, that we require those powers, which Valerie mentioned earlier on, which I really welcome. I'm struck so just to pick up on some of the other items, and this is sort of re-emphasising my argument, right? So if you go to page 260, stakeholders stated that SPT should utilise powers assigned to them by the Transport Scotland Act to run publicly owned bus services. That's the general public. Local authorities, time and time again in the consultation, comes up with the same theme. Several authorities noted the provision of bus services is unsatisfactory to many areas, particularly in new areas. And the current governance framework lacks the degree of control over public transport necessary to effect real change in the area. These messages come up time and time again in all of the local authorities and in the general public consultation. I think that emphasis needs to be pulled out more and either an introduction or a commentary or whatever to say, look, this is what we need to do in order to make, if we are genuine about making a modal shift. And I think the rest of it is sort of sit on similar lines in terms of all the evidence that we've received in the consultation. So I think I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. And for my part, I 100% agree with those comments. And the Scottish Government, words are nice, but money's better. And we don't have any awarded councils, but indeed us, no one has got money. Nice words, nice headline, but we can come on that without money. And it's as simple as that. And that has been mentioned by me face to face with the Transport Minister. So she's well aware of it. So the Scottish Government will be well aware of it as well. So they're absolutely right and the points to make. So obviously this partnership will support that. Do you want to make a Bruce?
Just on the bus side of things, I think just reviewing the RTS and you know, Arsenal will be listened all the way through. Bus has been a passion of ours, both from a policy perspective and delivery perspective for since we were first started. And we were the ones who came out with the bus policy over the last 10, 15 years, which a 10-point plan, which really laid the groundwork for what happened in 2019. That was a long process to try and get that moving. I think when we did the members' engagement sessions, really interesting discussion around some of this. But I keep coming back to this, and I will always keep coming back to it as about process. You said in the RTS we want to achieve these targets. We'll come back to the baseline in a minute. But you'll see throughout it, there's reference to utilisation of the powers of the 2019 Act. We need to go through a process for that. And that's what we've been talking about the strategy and programmes committee last November. And in the RTS, Strategic Regional Bus Strategy. So that will be looking at through a proper process. It will consider things like franchising. It will consider municipal operation, bus service improvement partnerships or others. What's the wrong thing to do is to prejudge the outcome of that. So we've got a strong strategy. We know that we've got a strong strategy. We know that that strategy will drive how we do the regional bus strategy, and we need to work through that process to get there in order that it's a robust decision for the partnership to either approve or not when we come to that point in time. But just to bring you right up to date, the SRBS regional bus strategy, which will do well because of the scale and complexity of it, be a significant piece of work. But just even over the last couple of weeks, Valerie has been tasking Gordon and I with what we're going to do now. What can we do that will make the changes now for people? And we're coming up with a series of proposals for that, which will, we anticipate, bring about some change, and they'll be coming to a committee of the partnership soon. So we've got one eye in the long term. We know where we want to go. We know the bus is failing. It's been on a downward trajectory for 60 years. COVID has dealt a deadly blow. 20%, 25% down on pre-COVID levels, and it was already bad before COVID. This strategy is the right, objective-led, evidence-based tone in order to facilitate us doing something about it, and we will, through the regional bus strategy, lay out the groundwork for doing that. Really important again to emphasise, no one else is doing this. Nobody else in Scotland is doing it. We look down south to our colleagues in England and Wales with envy sometimes at the things that they seem to be able to do, but it's a different legislative framework. We need to work within what we've got just now, and that's it. And indeed, we'll be doing the regional bus strategy, which will be looking at all these options in the absence of that guidance and regulations which Councillor Moyer talked about, particularly in relation to franchising and BSIPs. But by us doing this, it gives us an opportunity to shape the way that guidance and regulation goes. We're the biggest region in Scotland. We've got the most bus passengers. We can use that that process to help shape that and get a better system at the appropriate time. But as I said to the members in the engagement session, process, process. And if you didn't hear the last time, process again, because we need to do that. You're talking about changing an entire market. Words like deregulation and franchise, and you better be on some sound legislative and strategy evidence base. You better be on some sound footing to enable that change. And the RTS, as it sits in front of you, provides us with that. Just in the first point, in terms of the baseline and the targets, absolutely. So where necessary, we'll adopt the Scottish level. And that, for example, 20% reduction in car kilometres, we're working closely with Transport Scotland framework on how we deliver that. The emissions one is following national policy. It sets a baseline of 2019. And our modal shift one, 45% by 45% of all journeys by public transport or active travel by 2030. That's what we're working up and we'll bring forward that monitoring and evaluation framework and baselines for those as we come on. That's been worked on at the moment. Thanks, Chair.
Can I come back in?
Sorry, can I just two things to say apart from Chris giving you an insight into the patients and the leadership team on progress. The key issue, and Bruce kind of said it, but he said it gently, if I'll say it's slightly more robust, we don't have the regulations from the 2019 Act. We do not have it, and much of the progress is in that Act. So we do not have those regulations. So we need, we press Transport Scotland time and time again, but we need the supporting SIs and the supporting regulations to make sure we don't end up in a further conundrum later on. So we will continue to press that issue.
Okay.
Thanks. I think the public hates talking about process, frankly. They're interested in it. I don't want to take that negatively. So to me, I think, I get this is how to engage with government and this is how they expect to engage, that's fine. But it's also about our arguments, really, and it's about our arguments and how we can get to the outcomes as efficiently as possible, right? And I haven't seen that here, right? One of the challenges with a strategy like this, there's so many policy items, it becomes sort of a little bit overwhelming. And go back to your earlier point, what's the focus on the biggest impact, right? Now, I do accept re-regulation may be a solution, it's not a strategy at this stage. I do completely accept that. But I'm not seeing our arguments for the relative prioritisation of the actions that are going to deliver on these targets. And no one's disagreeing with the targets. It's how do we get there and what's the most efficient means of getting there. And that might not be for the strategy document, that might be for another thing. But I think that's important for us to sort of emphasise because we're getting swamped with policy initiatives from the Scottish Government, left, right and centre. What's the key ones that are actually going to make a difference and where we can improve people's lives and improve the climate? That's really what it to me boils down to. Accept your point, re-regulation may be a solution, maybe, but we need to build up our arguments in terms of how best to deliver.
Yeah, so just on that point, the reason we need to be robust in this is because down south there has been challenges from the operators and they have won cases in court. So that's why anything we produce has to be sound and it can't be challenged. And it gives the operators and the Scottish Government here at GFP can, when we compare what we're trying to do with mayoral cities, because Scotland does not have mayoral cities, so we can't match budgets and all the rest of it. So don't give the Scottish Government a GFP can, because it just muddies the waters, because they don't quote you for long just to get out of jail. So we need to stop using that language and talk about what we can do and how we can do it, and that's through the Scottish Government and funded and through councils and obviously government. I'm going to go. You saw it then? Yes.
Very quickly, Chair, just in terms of the process, you're absolutely right, also on the public tend to like when you talk about it, but just looking down south, even with the legislative simplicity that they got in the English legislation for Manchester, as the Chair said, It's taken about 6 years, and I think it's about £19 million for Manchester to build that case to go for franchise. And that was a process, as the chair said, ended up in court, lots of challenges. So you better get that particular part right. In terms of priority, that's why we've gone through this RTS development process. The case for change, we spoke to people time and time again, they came back to us and said, bus isn't working. Whether you're a member of the public or the organisation, businesses, they were recognising that the passengers or their staff weren't able to get to the shops or their work because of the poor system they had. Can't go out and visit your friends of an evening because there's no service after 7 o'clock. So we listened loud and clear, and that's why the strength of the RTS, we've already started that, looking at the Strathclyde Regional Bus Strategy and those quick wins. We're absolutely focused on that. As we move forward, as we say in the RTS, we'll be doing the delivery plan, that'll be clear about the weighting and the priority that we give to things. And I can assure you, as I said earlier on, Valerie's encouraging, I think you could say in inverted commas, Gordon and I to focus on the big things that make the most difference, and we'll continue to do that. Yeah, thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, Commissioner Mitchell.
Thank you very much, Chair. Got a few things I want to raise, mostly all in page 174. A couple of points got to do with the language, so I want to be labelled ahead, but there are a couple of things I think I'll just report to highlight. The first one is in point 18, the integrated public transport system. It mentions that we are aiming for a highly integrated system in the coming years. Now, if this was, a 1-year strategy, a 3-year strategy, a 5-year strategy, I would understand and accept that because we're certainly not going to have a fully integrated system in that short time scale. But we're talking about 15 years into the future, so I would like to think that we're aiming certainly, 15 years in the future. I'd like to think we'd be hopefully having a fully integrated transport system. It might not happen, but oftentimes when, depending on what you aim for, even if you fall short, if we aim for a highly integrated system, then maybe we fall slightly short and have a very good level of integration. Whereas if we aim for fully integrated, we will fall short slightly, and it will be highly integrated. So I think the ambition there, because this isn't something we're being held to, we're saying this is our aim. So I definitely think we should be absolutely aiming for fully integrated within by the end of the 15-year period. Another point I want to raise in 18, it mentions the integration of network services, ticketing information, marketing, and passenger facilities. I think one of the important things, and it links back, I think maybe to what Councillor Sinclair said earlier, is in timetabling. Now, I think that's an issue in every one of the local authorities, but maybe more so for some of the more rural and remote areas. If Councillor Sinclair is getting off a train or a bus and the ferry is set sail 5 minutes before, then it's clearly doesn't work. I know it's difficult to bring all of this together in the various modes, but I think it's definitely something that we should be looking to do. On 21, the bus quality and integration, I think it's been raised already. I know it's in there about good value for money. I kind of have to agree to a large extent with what Councillor Mearns said earlier on about affordability, how important that is, and simplicity. Now, we all made decisions today about how we were getting in here, and for me, I chose to take the train, and I've mentioned this before, the train was cheaper than the bus for me to get here today. When I was growing up, the train was almost seen as a slightly more, luxury version of travel, and the bus was for people like me who didn't have as much money. But now it's cheaper for me to get the train in here. So I think clearly the bus is slower than the train. We all know that. So why would I pay more money to get a slower service? It just doesn't make sense. So I think the affordability of buses can't be emphasised enough. On 22, rail quality and integration, it mentions development of the regional rail network. I'll mention something I mentioned before. I think I may be slightly on an island with this particular point, but rail regionalisation. I think services certainly that begin and aid within the Strathclyde region could be run much better in the Strathclyde region than from Edinburgh. And my last point I want to make is in reference to what Anne said earlier on about we need to be cognisant of the financial situation we're in, and absolutely I take that point on board 100%. You know, the situation just now financially is extremely difficult. I think and maybe, hopefully speaking on behalf of every elected member here, we really understand that. We've all been setting budgets in the last few weeks, and it has been an extremely difficult process. My one point I would make is this is a 15-year strategy though, and I'd like to think that some of the financial pressures, the over 10% inflation, won't be with us for that whole duration. So I don't think we should entirely limit our ambition based on the financial situation at the moment, although I obviously understand how...
I certainly don't want to limit our ambition.
Yeah.
It's just that realism of what can we do in, as I said, the next few years until things get better.
Absolutely understand that, but yeah, just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Hey Bruce, if you just take notes of that, I'm going to get you in the room. But isn't it strange that the room travel was cheaper? I wonder if you know that. But anyway, Councillor Mellon, then Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. So yeah, I would just quite like to, having reflected on Bruce's last response on the ticketing and best value, ensuring that passengers are able to choose and access the best value ticket. I do think that that vision, if we are having that vision for a fully integrated, that Councillor Mitchell described, which is what I presume all of us would hope to achieve, that we should therefore be expecting that nobody has to choose, and that it's chosen for individuals when they tap in and they tap out. And I think the reason I do take slight umbrage with this is that I think the focus needs to be on that fully integrated system, and asking passengers to choose in this sentence does contradict the sentence that comes after, which says facilitate public transport ticketing to be more flexible, affordable and integrated. So I would be keen that we amend that language slightly and take the emphasis of people having to choose to get the best ticket, and instead that being done for them, because that's a smart and integrated system that we all want, which we should be aiming for, even if it's going to be challenging to get there. And I think the only other thing I wanted to raise was about the similar sections, Appendix 3, page 279, and it's on the availability of transport. I know that this was raised at the previous partnership meeting, including the public transport guarantee, and that's minuted, and that's not included here. I think the changes which have been made remove the sentence, ensure a minimum level of active travel and public transport coverage for all areas in the region. And I think the reason that's been removed is because maybe there's some confusion around what that meant. It doesn't mean that we would only strive to achieve a minimum coverage, but it's that we would insist that there would be a minimum level or a minimum level guarantee for public transport coverage in the region. And so I do think that we need to, try and include that a little bit more, because at the moment, that was the whole point of having a minimum level, that there would be a guarantee on the coverage. So if we can't change that language, I would like we would include a commitment to a public transport guarantee, which was included within the Transport for Strathclyde paper, which was democratically agreed upon by the partnership, and which I feel has slightly more ambition in that regard, because we don't see this guarantee being included here, and there is no now reference to a minimum level. So I don't know if there's any way of reflecting on that. And then just as a more general point, there could be a reference to throughout the document of Transport for Strathclyde, which was a paper which was agreed by the partnership and which sadly I feel isn't included in the report.
Okay, just remember that again, Bruce, and the Councillor Wilson, and then Bruce can round up.
Yeah.
Some of the points that have been made. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you very much, Convener. Bruce, I'd like to thank you and your team and Stanek for what is a serious document, which is here to handle a serious problem. Because having listened to Councillor Donald, Councillor Sinclair and Councillor Moyle, we've got problems out there, they're there. And I sincerely hope that Transport Scotland will look at it very carefully and as quickly as they need to do to move things on. Two things today have really hit me. One was in the discussion on our capital expenditure, and that was the allocation of £12 million for a future transport fund. That is extremely significant. That's the money that allows us in the future to investigate another way of doing things, particularly in terms of bus. To answer Councillor O'Donnell, the Transport Act has alluded to municipal ownership, to franchising and other things. They've alluded to it. But again, I come on to Councillor Mitchell and Folan. There is no mention of finance in that Transport Act. Great ideas. The last 48 hours we've listened to McGill's giving a presentation to Renfrewshire, East Renfrewshire and Inverclyde Council on changes to their timetable because they're losing tens of millions of pounds. Now, it would be wonderful if these three councils could get together and take over McGill's in their area. Where do we get the money? The money's not there. You've got to add the money. So thank you very much for that, and thank you, Councillor Mitchell. You're absolutely right. If the money's not there, there's not a lot we can do. But in the main, an excellent document. Thank you very much.
Okay, and just around some of the questions, the answers.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, thanks for the questions and your ongoing input to this. I think just the level of questions we've got this morning, the debate in some respects goes on because a lot of these challenges that we're facing in our transport system are by no means easy. I'll take them in reverse order if that's okay from Councillor Mellon's Transport for Strathclyde. You can see reference to it in the report, accompanying the partnership paper, and obviously when the TFS report was published, our previous chair and the two vice chairs were currently there. Hugely important document and setting the tone for the RTS, and we were quite clear at the time. We came back to the partnership, the chair and the vice chair said, okay, Bruce and team, what are you going to do about this? How do we take account of it in the RTS? And we came back and emphasised that. So it's exactly the way what you see in the RTS there, the spirit of the Transport for Strathclyde document, which is obviously the views of the chair and the vice chair. We need to find a way to take account of that in due process in a robust way, and I can assure the partnership that we've done that, and it will be flowing through it. The RTS is a standalone document. We can't have two regional transport strategies for the West of Scotland. This is the regional transport strategy for the West of Scotland, and as I say, it is built on the work that the partnership have done, the officers have done, councils have done, and particularly the Transport for Strathclyde document. The spirit of that is all the way through it. In terms of public transport guarantee, that would be very challenging for us to put in the regional transport strategy, simply because we couldn't deliver it. We don't have the powers to do it at the moment. Through the bus strategy, through the 2019 Act, we would be able to do it. Indeed, you recall back to the SPT papers in November, where we presented a very detailed process for how we're going to do the Strathclyde Regional Bus Strategy. You'll see in there a level of service framework. Now, what that means and what we can do about it is to be debated, is to be, we'll come back to you with that, and that will go through the proper process to say for the rural areas, for villages and towns, for some of the poorer areas of our urban sprawl across Glasgow and the west of Scotland, what is the appropriate level. But the one thing that we cannot do is provide a public transport guarantee. What we can do is work through the process to be able to enable that to actually happen. In terms of the availability in terms of ticketing, the simplicity for passengers, that absolutely goes through the document again, back to page 278. Deliver affordable public transport for all, ensure public transport passengers get easy to choose and access the best value ticket for their journey, facilitate public transport ticketing to be more flexible, affordable and integrated, and to better reflect the way that people need to travel, etc., etc. That is not putting the responsibility of ticketing on the passenger. That's putting the responsibility of ticketing onto the myriad number of operators that we deal with, to ensure that what they are providing is absolutely the simplest thing. So nowadays you go on, you tap on the bus, you tap off, you're entirely walking off without a receipt. You're entirely trusting that company to make sure that you're getting the best value, and there will be systems and assurances and regulations in there to make sure that actually happens. That's a really important part of all of this as we're going on. Just back to the previous councillor in terms of the councillor Nixon, in terms of the questions that he asked. Funding, I mean, really down to the politicians at national level and elsewhere. We could make the case for investment in public transport. As I keep on saying to people, we have the strongest national transport strategy we've ever had. We've got a strong now regional transport strategy. We've got strong local transport strategies coming through. How long can we keep shouting before people will listen? That's why this strategy is called the call to action, because we want to see it actually happen. That will require a lot of money, but it is down to the politicians and the Parliament, the Scottish Government and others to make those decisions in line with what we are doing. There has been good news, plus partnership fund, the increase in active travel, but we need more for the rest of Scotland, and this strategy gives us the basis to do that. The point about the regional rail network is absolutely spot on, and that's something that I think will very much, you'll hear more of that over coming weeks and months and years in relation to the Clyde Metro, because increasingly, if we're looking at the Clyde Metro as not just a project, but a metropolitan transport network, it's something that drives our state of mind and how we are making that happen. There has to be an element of more regional control, whether that's in relation to bus, whether it's ticketing, whether it's rail. Absolutely, that will need to happen. The only way that the Clyde Metro will work if there is elements of control in there, and that's something we look forward to discussing with Transport Scotland and others as they go on. In terms of train being cheaper than the bus, I was talking to colleagues about that just this morning. I live in Party. When I first moved there, it was by far cheaper to get into town by bus. Now it's £2.30 the turn and over £4.80 in the bus. It's a rich person's game travelling by bus just now, and something that is driving what we are trying to do. That affordability thing. If we look back to the 2019 Act, and you remember we get Sister to do a review of that for us in Glasgow City Council. They said the only way to deal with affordability and effectively was through franchising. Now, that will not prejudice in anything. We will do our RBS, regional bus strategy, in the proper process. But that's the kind of thing that will drive the change we need. We'll be looking across the board at services, reliability, affordability, etc. And in terms of just the last point, apologies, Chair, for going on, but there's a lot of questions here. In terms of integration, absolutely agree. It's like the words for all. You will see integration throughout this document. The spirit of it is absolutely to achieve the top level of integration that we can get. But again, I'll just caution you, not all of that's within our control. Not all of that's even within the partners and stakeholders in the west of Scotland's control. So just to reassure the partnership, we will be looking for the fullest integration of public transport, active travel and others as we move on. So apologies for going on, Chair, that's the question answer.
Hopefully with Councillor Mearns, the second issue. Back in again.
Sorry. Thanks, Chair. It's just very briefly. I know that I'm talking too much as usual, but this is really important. And even the semantics are important, I think, in terms of the meaning that's being put out there. And I just want to just very lastly say that it's just the word choose, I think. It is just the word choose, that the passengers should not have to choose the best value ticket. That should be done for them. I think that should be the vision. But also just the public transport guarantee, Bruce, that you did express, and I completely understand, I completely appreciate the challenges that we have. We don't have powers to do half of these things that are in there. We don't have powers to do integrated ticketing. We don't have powers to create more affordable transport, yet all of those are within the policy actions. And so I think we should still be aiming, our mission should still be the highest. And when it comes to public transport guarantee, I do think that is something that we should be aiming for. And just very lastly, the transport for Strathclyde is not mentioned in this document once. I have digitally searched it more than one time. Maybe my digital search is wrong, but I'm an Adobe reader. I've digitally searched for the words transport for Strathclyde and it's not come up once, it said 0. So maybe I'm wrong in that, but I hope
can assure you it is.
We checked it.
Sorry, I don't need to.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chairman. You know, it's I'm not the biggest fan of talking about governance, but we do include in the RTS, we go towards the end of the document, in the delivering the strategy section, there is a section on governance, and it says that the public consultation that we had through public survey, through the Case for Change consultation, through the public consultation, people kept coming back to it and say the current system of governance we have, the roles and responsibilities, the funding that we've got is not fit for purpose if we're to achieve something like this regional transport strategy and the targets that are within it. It took some time for us to work out what to do there because it is a challenge, but we were presented with an opportunity. Transport Scotland, as you might be aware, had a transport governance group, building on the previous work of the roles and responsibilities group, which I've been part of throughout the last number of years. They paused work on the transport governance group. We're saying now, as you'll see in the strategy, the delivering the strategy section, SPT and the councils will lead a governance review, looking at roles and responsibilities, funding in the west of Scotland, in order that we can submit that to the Scottish ministers. Remember, the RTS is a statutory document when approved. We make a commitment in that to get back to the Scottish ministers with the results of that governance review, and hopefully through that we can bring about some change and get some of that control and influence and power that we need to be able to achieve the integration, etc., that we absolutely that we need and our councils need, and the public policy organisations in the west of Scotland need to be able to achieve the things that we want. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, and I'm going to go in person for the penultimate for this. I think we'll give this.
Just to understand when our power is coming over to SPT.
Right, okay, that's a good question, which will not be answered.
Come on, Chair.
No, hold on. Right, so the Scottish Government, the big thing that they can do to sort out the route to the south is to create legislation, which they can do, rather than us working away for year on year. They can do that within 9 months, the legislation. A lot of things they can do, which they choose not to do. I don't understand why, because they've been told legislate for a low point of selling bits, but there's bits that can be legislated for, which takes the task away from us and gets us closer to the public control of our transport, which is our dream by this statement. So, Councillor.
Yeah, first of all, Chair, I think the discussion that's been, quite frankly, has been worthy of discussion we've had, and I think there has been quite a bit of commonality in terms of direction of travel, in terms of particularly in relation to bus. Again, this document is more than just like bus, ferries, and wider. And again, in some ways, it's a shame that's what it is, but that's the reality, and that's the reality that affects and confronts us as elected members on a daily basis. And you know, we see the headlines and the comments that are made by different bus operator companies in relation to their decision making, the reasons why they make it, and some can be justified, and some somewhat a little bit down. I think the key thing here to this is that, you know, whilst due process is, you know, understandable, just like Councillor Donald kind of make reference to, is the issue is the here and now. We are going through some big decisions by bus operators now, and I like to think that, you know, the Chief Executive has had an input, Bruce and Gordon, in terms of the, you know, what would they be doing in terms of bus strategy. I like to think that the chairs have had an impact on that as well, in terms of refusing to encourage that, because quite frankly, what comes up across loud and clear is that the blank cheques that have been written to the bus operators, the Minister used conditionalities, we've been using ask, it's the same thing. But this continuing writing cheques without any ask, data, information, any buy-in, any kind of control, any kind of governance, that has to end. And if there is to be any future funding, then that future funding has to come with conditionalities, asks, And dare I say it, when I said the reference earlier on, that money should be getting passed on to the RTPs and SPT to find the answer. But the point being is this, is that SPT is part of the solution, it is not the problem. And over the time I've been involved in SPT, we're going back to the temporary plan, we've been consistently going forward with agendas for solution finding answers. And but part of the problem is we are part of the local government transport wing. Now we always, as Councillor Mission made reference to what's taking place in terms of council. We are a mixed bag here in terms of political diversity. One of the good things that comes across real loud and clear is that the status quo in relation to the bus transport isn't acceptable, and that we need to have a situation where SPT is empowered, where we can do the business in terms of making public transport affordable, and complementing some of the other initiatives that are taking place. But the key thing is this, that for us to do anything in relation to particularly bus transport, we need the powers in terms of the definition, in terms of regulation, and all the elephant in the room, finance. And in each stop, giving commercial operators blank checkbooks. If they want to give out blank checkbooks, blank checks, should I say, give us one and we'll do business.
Okay, thank you. And just we've had a good go at this, and it's been really positive in relation to the answers that we've had. Unfortunately, not positive in relation to some of the things that we want to do. And one of the examples I'll give you that we've asked for through the Scottish Government is that we control the routes. Now, I know that in the 80s it changed under the safest order, we changed it, right? Now, we didn't control public transport then because of the Scottish Government. We now do, and that is within our gift. And the Scottish Government can actually change that. Now, I don't know, saying that sounds simple. I don't see the problem in changing it. I don't understand why there is an argument against it. So that's one thing that the Scottish Government can do. They have the councils, or the councils ask us to do it on their behalf, but give us the power to at least control the routes, and then our communities will not be isolated at the whim of an operator who wants to just build up more profits. And when they say they're losing money, it's they're losing money in their profits, not running over. I'm going to leave it there, and hopefully Scottish Government are listening to this, because you can hear it again. So the document is before you, and it's to approve the final draft regional transport strategy. It's attached to the now, it's a draft, I emphasise, that was presented. So some of the things that I've mentioned here today can be looked at in relation to the Scottish Government when they look at that. Do we hear this? Councillor Mills?
I do think that given the, thank you, Chair, sorry, the conversations we've had should be reflected. There's obviously quite a lot of comments made. I know that it's going through the houses in terms of consultations and coming back to the board and things. But, if there's not an opportunity for these comments, which I think are still quite critical comments, to be reflected upon in the final document, albeit it is a draft and it will have an opportunity to be reviewed, I do think that would be a lost opportunity, and that there should be an opportunity to reflect that.
I don't think it's a lost opportunity because that's enough. Okay, so we get the report. Right, thank you. Right, let's then items.
Thanks very much, Chair. Agenda item 10, which is page 297, is a report which we produced and reviewed, which sets out what SPT is doing in terms of business and quality duties. We are obliged to report on our activities and how effectively we are trying to bring quality into our mainstream activity of SPT. Much of what SPT actually is about reducing the inequality gap, for instance, minors, etc. So it's actually part of what we do day in, day out already. The report sets out some key tasks, key activities that we've been undertaking in terms of SPT's equality outcome, and we are highlighting on page 298 for you. Maybe just to bring a wee bit more information towards that. So for instance, we undertake an impact survey at the moment, we're expecting the results quite soon. An accessibility audit of all of the own estate. And we are doing that in collaboration with Glasgow City Council, who are also doing an accessibility audit for the areas around our estate, because we don't control all of that, but we will need to make sure that use of public transport is not just the physical effect on that we control, but also the walking to the station, the walking from the station, street lighting, etc. So that's just a piece of work that is currently underway at the moment. One other has already been to the Operations Committee is obviously the review of the mine bus service, and that has been undertaken a fundamental review of that. We've looked at who uses it, why they use it, and we're now at that stage of saying, well, what can we do with that to make sure it's meeting the needs of everybody who needs to use that service. And that report will come, further report will come in due course to the Operations Committee. And just one I'd like to pull out there, or two others, if you'll just bear with me. One is, of course, for those members who may or may not see, we've been in collaboration with BCP about the Legal Guardian Act, and I raise it specifically because of the report that was in Parliament recently about women and girls' perception of public transport safety. And in advance of that, and in fact, in advance of that report, SPT had acted with the Transport Police and had actually backed one of our own trains to promote the British Transport Act, the Railway Guardian, and we encourage all to take that back to the local authorities, because it's not just about women and girls, it's also about the bystander, if they see anything on the railway, to use that app, and it's a QR code basis. And we received a lot of support, but I would encourage all authorities to take that back to the local authority as well. And finally, just because that's a very external focus, one other that will just raise with members' attention is that in the last year or so we have adopted a blind recruitment policy in SPT, which is clearly it can't be blind recruitment all the way through, because you have to walk in the door to be interviewed, but up to the point of shortlisting, we have implemented blind recruitment. So the details that interview managers see is simply based on the information about somebody's experience and not about age, address, school, or any other matter. And we will continue to monitor that to see if it's making any impact on our own staff complement at all. So the report is there for members. I commend the report to you, the team that have worked this report up, worked very hard on it, and I think it makes progress, but we are making progress internally, but also externally, which is really important that we know our course reflects our communities, and we also need to make sure that our services reflect what our communities need in terms of accessibility, etc. So commend the report to you.
Okay, are there any questions for the report? Any comments?
Yeah, thanks. I've got Railway Guardian on my phone, going through British Transport Police on the train, giving information about it. I was asking, you asked about the male-female relationship staff in SPT, where 2/3, 1/3 is at one level quite good for transport, but on the other hand it reflects quite a few of our staff are in sort of office type role. I was wondering what the age profile is of the female staff, because one would expect them probably to be younger, because it's younger women who've been drawn into the transport sector, and if we are recruiting more, that's good. And I was also particularly wondering what's being done at the technical grades level, because I know Network Rail has done a lot of work to encourage female engineers and other female technicians into the railway. I think with some success, though Jen will probably know better than I do. And I wonder if there's any lessons to learn from that.
Thank you. It's a really good question, actually. The gender split is roughly 2,005. There's actually a bit of a skew, if that's the right word, in our gender split, in our professional grades. It's very much more, and at the lower grades, female dominated. And obviously in some of our technical grades, you're quite right, historically have been male driven. So the gender split and the age split, there's not really a profile coming out of that. However, having said that, what I can say is in terms of how do we encourage, particularly into those technical groups, we do a lot of work with Central to try and encourage people into engineering, into the more technical roles. And we also undertake activities in schools and in universities and colleges about encouraging people into the non-traditional roles. In fact, a number of years ago, not that long, 4 or 5 years ago, our head of engineering was female. So, but of course this is going to be a generational move as we encourage people into different roles, and that is a wee bit behind some of our gender balance, our line recruitment, to make sure that we're not undertaking unconscious bias. All managers have been trained in unconscious bias now to ensure that actually they're looking at things in a slightly different way. So it is something which I hope will move over the next couple of years to ensure that. But actually what we need is women and girls to actually apply to those roles, and actually sometimes we don't get them into the application process. So we're looking at how we can make that easier and better, and that is partly that work with schools, universities and colleges, etc. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, yeah. The councillors are looking at that as well. Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. Really great that we're looking at all these issues very seriously. I suppose I would just like to ask if there's anything within this strategy that's looking at how we make the board itself more representative. You know, obviously, you know my feelings about this, and I am glad that there's some improvement on the standing orders to perhaps, hopefully, improve that in the future. However, we know the limitations with the standing orders, and so I would just like to ask specifically for some sense of what we are actively doing in the short term to try and improve the diversity representation of the board, which is very heavily male and white. I think there is a real requirement, and as you see, on us to try and do something better, or try and make that better. And it's, for example, quotas and things like that for appointed members, you know, we potentially have more options there.
Happy to take that question. Councillor Meredith and I talked about this at length. So there's 2 issues. We have a board succession plan, which we had, needs to be refreshed, but we used that last time. And the board succession plan outlined the activities that we actually implemented to try and encourage more gender balance in the appointed member process. For instance, producing a pack, talking to other members, engaging with other groups, deliberately focusing and targeting our recruitment campaign to specific groups to try and encourage applications. So we did all of that. When it comes to the full board, and I'll be quite clear about this, this is a direct democratic process. And in fact, I don't get to choose who comes to the board. You're elected.
The elector's not doing a good job.
You're elected through the democratic process. I have absolutely no say once you are appointed to your elected councils who comes to SPT. It's a factor of, I don't want to tell you this, it's a factor of policy, politics, it's a factor of your distribution within the councils to own committees, etc. It's out of my gift, and there is nothing I can write to actually change that.
Okay.
Thank you, Ali, and thank you, Chair. I do very much appreciate the issues here. However, it would be interesting to know what routes are possible. You know, what we had, which way we can address it. You know, could we be engaging with local councils, for example, to be emphasising this issue or emphasising the need for more diversity. But sorry, I'm not just focusing on the democratic process in terms of, I'm also asking you if there's any other means of addressing this. Is it through appointed member processes, for example? I suppose in that regard it would be helpful to have a little bit more information about the good work that you've expressed. This has happened already. Can I request that a further report be brought back specifically on what levers are available potentially and what has been already explored in the regard of making the board more representative? not just in terms of gender and in terms of race, but in terms of disability. There are lots of people that need to be reached and that need to be part of the decision-making process that aren't being reached.
So I am more than happy to bring a report that sort of talks about a role succession plan. A role succession plan is aimed at the appointed members. It's the only bit that I can influence. And we already endeavour to have 50-50 gender split, but also have a representation of disability and race and ethnicity, etc. And I'm happy to bring the update of the succession plan in due course, but I can confirm that we engaged with many groups, and in fact, groups that lots of people might not get on. 2% Club, for instance, which is targeting young women into board roles, etc., all that kind of stuff. So I'm more than happy to bring something in due course.
Okay, and that's for the answer. Approved. Item 10.
Item 11 is a testing policy. Can I ask all those who are not members of the board to remove the meetings, and we will also stop the recording. Thank you.